Hey, and welcome to Brian Brain's National Curriculum. This is a quiz that the entire family can take part in, enjoy, and learn from. Okay, here we go. My name is Brian Brain, and if you haven't played before, well, you'll soon get the hang of it. You might even want to create a prize for the winner or the winners if you decide to play as a team. Let's see if you younger budding brains can beat the adults, the boffs. You see, for every budding brain question for you kids, a harder boff question for the adults will follow. Today's subject is science for year 1. And what we've done is mix the topics up a little bit for you, although you'll soon be able to get hold of each individual topic for each subject. So this is how it works. For each question you get right, award yourself a point. It's as simple as that. Don't forget to keep score as you go along, so you might want to get a pen and some paper before you start. Here's a little bit of getting yourself ready time. Just before we go, here's a little tip for you all. Your brain has an amazing ability to remember things in picture form. So, with both the questions and the answers, try to see pictures in your own mind's eye. It really does work. Okay, everybody ready? Great! Then just remember that the most important thing is to have a bit of fun and also to build that brain power of yours. Good, then off we go! Budding brains. I like to start the day with a nice bowl of cereal and some fresh milk. Now, we get most of our milk from cows, but what is the name of a baby cow? What is the name of a baby cow? And time's up. Well, I do hope you got it because it's a calf. A calf. That's right, and just in case you're worried that we might ever run out of milk, there are over 1.3 billion cows alive in the world today. That's almost 1 cow for every 5 people. Wow! And you boffs, what is a young female cow called before she has a calf? Off you go. What's a young female cow called before she has a calf? Well, I hope you got this one right because the answer's a heifer. A heifer. Did all of you budding brains and boffs get the hang of the first question? I hope you did. So for question 2, we're going to move on from animals to plants. And here is question 2 for you budding brains. What are the modified leaves of a flower that surround the reproductive parts called? Whoa, that's a toughie. Off you go. What are the modified leaves of a flower that surround the reproductive parts? Think about it. Sometimes they've got a lot of colour. And did you get it? The answer is petals. Yes, petals. And did you know the petals protect the reproductive part of the flower and they attract insects? Part of how they do this is through the scent, which is why flowers often smell so nice. So, let's see if the boffs are smelling the scent of victory and ask them their flower question. You boffs, in Western culture, irises and lilies are associated with what occasions? Here's your thinking time. Irises and lilies associated with what? Time's nearly up, and time is up. The answer is burials and funerals. You have to be careful in different cultures which flowers though, boffs. For example, certain types of chrysanthemum are linked with death in France, while in Chinese culture they represent a life of ease. Don't want to get those two mixed up, do we? Budding Brains, your question number 3. What fabric do we get from sheep? Here's your thinking time. What fabric do we get from sheep? And that's it. The answer is, of course, wool. Hope you got that one. Farmers shave the wool off the sheep every year, but don't worry about them getting cold, because sheep can't actually shed their own wool. So if we didn't help them out, it would be like leaving them with a big woolly jumper on throughout the hot summer's days. Ugh, not so nice. Speaking of sheep, boffs, what made Dolly the sheep famous? What made Dolly the sheep famous? Well, did you get that? She was actually the first cloned sheep. You budding brains might not have heard of cloning yet, but it's basically creating a sheep or any other animal exactly the same as another one using science. Scary stuff, really. So, while a sheep gives us lots of wool for our jumpers and socks, I actually like to dress up smart in a nice silk shirt sometimes. Do we know where we get silk from? Budding brains. Which insects produce silk that we can use to make clothes with? Which insects produce silk? Did you get that? You could have had a pretty good guess, actually. Silkworms. Silkworms. Don't sound very nice. Silkworms are found in India, China, Japan and Korea. If you said spider, then you can actually take half a point, because spiders do produce silk when they make their webs, but spider silk is very rarely used to make clothes. OK, you boffs, still with those silkworms. Silkworms are fed on the leaves of which tree? Off you go. OK, did you get it? It's not an easy one. Mulberry. Mulberry. Silkworms eat only one thing, mulberry leaves. There's actually an old nursery rhyme about mulberry bushes, so if you want to pause the audio and give yourself an extra point to anybody who can sing it. Here we go round the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush. Here we go round the mulberry bush on a cold and frosty morning. That's not really quite the tune, but you get the idea. OK, are you done? Let's move on to the next question. Budding brains, is a bat busy in the daytime or the night time? Off you go. Is a bat busy in the daytime or the night time? OK, time's up. I hope you got this one, because you just don't see them during the daytime. It is, of course, night time. And because they mostly come out at night, there are lots of stories about bats. People even used to think that some of them turned into vampires. Today, we know that they don't and in fact are mostly harmless.